You probably know Alyssa Healy from being awesome. She made 170 from 138 to win Australia the last 50 over World Cup. That was less than a year ago. She's also the niece of a famous player, married to an even more famous player, and is happy enough in her own existence to get in many different kinds of beefs that she doesn't even need to be in. She is the real deal. And since the start of 2021, this is how she goes in the power plays of T20s. Not only is she surprisingly middle of the road, she's not even one of the better middle of the road players. This average is actually terrible. She's really struggling just to stay at the crease. And this feels like it should be a bigger narrative coming into the World Cup. But women's data and stats is much harder to find than the men's. Even the numbers we're using for this video, I'm not sure how comprehensive they are. But we do have numbers for internationals, CPL, the 100 and the BBL. But at the very least, it should give you an idea of what different players can do. As usual, I split up the sections into power play, middle and death. And for this video, we'll focus on the batting. So here are some of the most interesting women batters in the power play. Let's start with the explosive players. Shafali Verma is striking very fast for India and she's only averaging 25. But I think because she's scoring so quickly, it makes a pretty loud noise. She's not even the youngest player up on this part of the list either. You can also find Alice Capsey. These are two of the younger players coming through who seem to be smashing it and perhaps changing the way that women have traditionally gone about batting here. Sort of short form top order smashers. But Sophia Dunkley might be the most interesting up here. Her strike rate is the same as Verma, but she has averaged nearly 40. The ability to combine those two things together is really rare in the women's game. And I do need to point out Orla Prendergast here. She's from Ireland, and so far her knocks have mostly been against Pakistan, Netherlands, and Scotland. However, she certainly profiles as someone who can hit the ball very hard. It will be really interesting to see if she can take that to the higher level. It's worth stopping at Lizelle Lee, because she is still very much in the good part of this list, even without playing many internationals. Of course, she won't be at this World Cup because she retired. Why? Well, she passed her 2K time trial, unlike Dane van Niekerk, but they still said she was too heavy. Just have a look at where she is here. It's a hell of a player to be watching on as a fan. In the yellow, you'll see our anchors. Beth Mooney, Elise Villani and Georgina Redmayne, all comfortably scoring a little bit over a run of ball, but in a cluster on their own. Then you have this group back here with Laura Wolfart and Meg Lanning, probably the two best technical batters in the game. The Wolf is a fraction above a run of ball, while Meg is actually a little bit slower. But of course it's possible that when she's come out, it's been after quick wickets and she's just knocked it around. And that's probably also the case with our two outliers here. Nat Siva and Harmanpreet Kaur are big hitters later in the innings, but as you can see, when they come in the power play, they are knocking it around very slowly. But the important thing is that they're not really being dismissed doing it. And the fact that there's both of them would suggest that that is what the pattern is. Harmanpreet's only ever gone out once in the power play over the last couple of years, but she also hasn't faced that many balls. But it's fair to say that you wouldn't really expect her to ever score this low. Let's get on to the middle. Since we started with how poor Healy has been, shall we look at what happens when she escapes the power play and is set? Her average doubles and she starts to smoke fools everywhere. So there are two questions worth asking here. Should she be opening? And the second one is, if she does, should she bat even slower to ensure that she gets to the middle and starts to do real damage? Because a 160 strike rate is obscene, and you can see how far she is from everyone else. Then you have this band of players who are all striking around 140. For India, Shriti Mandana is going to have to continue to haul the heaviest load in this area. She's also quite a good player in South Africa, so she might be a key to India's chances. Grace Harris and Danny Wyatt are more like high energy players, here for a good time, not a long one. Nita Dar has really improved over the last couple of years. She's combining a high average here with a decent enough strike rate. This is a really good record. Plus she calls herself Lady Boom Boom, so there's a lot to like here. There are some others struggling, of course. Shafali takes a massive step back here after her starts. She clearly needs the players in for the power play. This is one of the more extreme post-power play drops you'll see. Risha Ghosh is also struggling here, a combination of no runs and slowly. This is a decent cluster to be in. You've got Jemima Rodriguez, who is a slow starter in the power play, but really picks it up in the middle. Talia McGrath, who's done very well for Australia, but not as much in franchise cricket. But I would say that there are a bunch of plus players in here. And this is the sort of pattern that we didn't really see with the power play. It's also worth mentioning Elise Perry. Her intent is still an issue, but she has got a lot faster in the last year or so. But as has always been the case with her, she just doesn't go out very much. Now let's go to the other massive outlier here. Beth Mooney. She was averaging 37 with a strike rate of 107 in the power play, so she was really at the head of the steadiest starters. So to explode with a strike rate of 140 is huge, but to do it while basically not being dismissed is wrong. This is just a silly record. Shall we go to the death? I did not expect to come all the way to the end and see Laura Wolfart come back to the party this hard. I think that partly this shows she's probably going a little bit too slow at the top. Maybe she just doesn't believe in a middle or lower order. Or she could just be that prototype anchor who explodes at the end, like a KL Rahul. Of course, the more typical anchors are probably down here with Elise Perry, and Deepti Sharma is right next to her as well. There's a weird grouping in the middle here of a couple of players who are not quite hitters or nudgers. McGrath and Rodriguez kind of have a bit of both about their games. And I want to shout out Annabelle Sutherland here. Other than the fact that Annabelle and her brother are kind of turning into the same cricketer, she is also very interesting in the women's game because you don't get this many quality late order hitters. In fact, if they usually get good at it, they get pushed up the order anyway. So Sutherland is a huge plus for Australia at 8 because she can just come in and slap it at around 2 runs a ball. That is a massive advantage for Australia over other teams. But shall we just finish with Beth Mooney? It says something that she has been highlighted in all 3 sections of the game, which is taking the piss, really. And the other interesting thing is she is near the power hitters here, but really, she isn't one of them. She's just so skillful and such an amazing runner that she scores at this level. There is no doubt that she is an above average player in every part of the innings. In fact, in one of those, she's the best, and in the other one, she's top 5. Weirdly, she is somehow not the number 1 ranked T20 international batter according to the ICC, but according to the Jarrod Kimber rankings, she is number 1 and Daylight is second.